Okay, so for today's setup guide, we are checking out Teknoparrot for Retrobat. So a lot of you has been saying that things aren't working anymore, and to be fair, the last time I did a setup guide for Teknoparrot in Retrobat was over a year ago. A lot of things have changed in Retrobat since. So in this setup guide, I'm going to go through everything you need to know in how to set up Teknoparrot for Retrobat, including how to add games, how to configure files, how to edit files, and also looking at controller settings. So anyways, everything's in this setup guide today, so check this one out. Okay, before I start today's Retrobat in Teknoparrot 2024 guides for Retrobat version 6, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. Just means you'll get notifications every time I upload a retro emulation video. It also helps out my channel a great deal. So we're looking at Retrobat and Teknoparrot today. Now I've had a lot of comments recently on this one specifically for Retrobat, as well as a standalone which I uploaded yesterday, a new version of this. So I've had different comments saying that games aren't displaying in the correct aspect ratio and this and that. So Teknoparrot itself, it needs to be downloaded externally. That means outside of Retrobat. So what we're going to do then is actually head over to the Retrobat website. So this is the official Teknoparrot website. Now I'm going to make this very clear. Around 80, maybe 85% games are free to play as long as you've got those games. The other percentage, you will have to pay a monthly subscription for Teknoparrot. Now it's going to cost you the price of a cup of coffee, and some people will moan on this. Frankly, most emulators are free, if not 95% emulators are free, and let's be honest, your games are free too in most cases. So it's a small price to pay for a fairly good arcade emulator. So not all games are going to be compatible, but if we go to the compatibility tab at the top, we're going to find perfect, great, issues, unplayable, and unknown. So the games that you want to look for is going to be in the blue circle with the white tick, perfect. These are going to run at 100%. And if we take a look through the list, you're going to find a lot of games there if actually got the blue circle with the white tick. The next one down, great. So again, these games are going to run 90-95% okay, and they're going to have very, very minor imperfections, but most of the time these games work fine. So once you take a look through the list here, you'll see what's working and what's not working. Next thing we're going to do is actually go to downloads. Now, like I say, we can download some emulators directly through Retrobat itself, but this one you can't do this with, so we do need to install this externally, like I was saying. Now, DirectX and Visual C++ needs to be installed. So I'm not actually going to go through this because in my recent Retrobat version 6 setup guide, I do suggest in that you download and install both of these, otherwise visuals aren't going to work and things aren't going to boot up. So just make sure you have got these two installed. So we're going to go to Teknoparrot Web Installer. And you've got two options here. So download TB Bootstrapper, and this is the one I'm going to use. The one below it, Legacy Release, this just means we can download bits and pieces, but largely we're going to have to download things for ourselves, whereas download TB Bootstrapper is going to automatically do it for us. So just left click on download TB Bootstrapper. Okay, so we've now downloaded Bootstrapper. If we just open this one up, what I'm going to do with this is just extract all of this into a new folder for now. So right click on desktop, new folder, and I'm going to just simply call this new folder just by default. What we're going to do is just left click and highlight all of the contents from that tbbootstrapper.zip and just drag everything into that new folder. Okay. Now, next thing we need to do is we need to place these installation files within Retrobat. So let me show you what I mean. If we go to the Retrobat shortcut, if I right click on it, open file location, if we go down to emulators, in emulators, we're going to find a Teknoparrot folder. And here it is. If we go in Teknoparrot, we're going to see it's empty. So this is where we need to install Teknoparrot. If we go back to the new folder, What I'm going to do is double left click on tbbootstrapper.exe. Windows protected your PC, just press on more info, run anyway. Okay, so just let this do what it's doing. You're going to see lots of not installed. So here we go. Please select where you'd like to download Teknoparrot, and this is where we're going to aim this towards that emulator's Teknoparrot folder within Retrobat. So what I'm going to do from here is just go to Browse, and then from Browse I need to locate this folder. So what I'm going to do is just scroll down on the side, and I'm going to look for the whereabouts of my Retrobat directory. So it's going to be in my C drive, and if I just scroll down, I'm going to find my Retrobat folder just here. And here we go. So here's emulators, and if we just scroll down, we're going to find this Teknoparrot folder. And here it is. So just left click, highlight that. So that's that done, and we're going to go to select folder. Next thing I'm going to do is just go to full install, and we're going to leave this to install. And as we can see inside that Teknoparrot folder within Retrobat, it's now building. Okay, so Teknoparrot is downloaded successfully. We're going to press OK on this. This is the first time you're running Teknoparrot UI, so let me just remind you, UI means user interface. Please set emulation settings, just press OK. You have no game set up. Do you want to add one now? I'm going to just press no for this. And this is Teknoparrot. So for now, what we can do is actually delete that folder where we just downloaded the bootstrapper. We no longer need that because we've now got Teknoparrot installed. Okay, so first thing I suggest you doing is let's just quickly update this. In the top left just here, you're going to find update available. If I left click on the lines just here, I'm going to go down to install updates and just update at the bottom. These three just here should be checked. And let me just remind you, Teknoparrot is a very active system in that it gets a lot of updates. We're just going to go down to update. Okay, awesome. So Teknoparrot is now updated and it's also put into our Retrobat Emulators folder. So next up, we need to take a look at the games. So I've got two games here. I've got Lest and Darius Burst, another Chronicle. If we take a look inside of these games, this is going to be your general layout for Teknoparrot games, and the one we're looking for in particular is .exe. We can see here that a Lest has sensing_lest_apm3.exe. And if I go into Darius Burst, just scroll down, we're going to find another exe. Here it is, game exe. So that's good. So next thing we need to do in order for Retrobat to recognize our Teknoparrot games is rename the folders. So if I right click on the Lest, for example, show more options, I'm going to go to rename. Now I'm going to rename this Teknoparrot. So I'm going to leave a Lest in place and I'm going to put .teknoparrot. And as we can see, it's now renamed to a Lest.teknoparrot. And I've already done the same for Darius Burst. So as we can see at the end, it says .teknoparrot. So I'm going to go back to my Retrobat directory, right click, open file location, ROMs. And I'm going to just drag down until I come across Teknoparrot. And here it is. I'm going to drag both of these games with .teknoparrot on the folders. Just drag those inside of your Retrobat ROMs Teknoparrot folder. Okay, so once we've done that, if we just come out of the ROMs folder, we're going to go into the emulators folder. And from here, we're going to go down to Teknoparrot, and we need to start adding our games into Teknoparrot. So Teknoparrot, and to open up Teknoparrot, it's teknoparrot UI.exe. You have no game set up. Do you want to add one now? Yes. Okay, so let's add some games. So we need to go to the lines at the top and just make sure you're on add game. And from here, I'm going to find my first game, which is Celeste. If I left click on it, just go to add game. Okay, added. Now we're going to go to game settings. Game executable sends in _less _apm3.exe. So it's telling us here what exe it is we need to put just here. If I left click on it, I'm going to go to where my game's located. So it's going to be on my C drive and it's going to be in my Retrobat folder, in my ROMs folder. And we need to now look for Teknoparrot. Here it is. And here's my game, Alesti, which I renamed .teknoparrot. If I just go into this, double left click, and I'm going to double left click on the exe that Teknoparrot is asking us for. Okay, next thing we need to do is General Input API. This is going to be for controllers. Now for me, direct input works fine on my Google Stadia controller. So I'm going to just leave this as direct input. If you're having issues with your controllers, then obviously select X input. Now beneath it, we're going to find General APM Free ID. Just leave this for now. We're going to go to Save Settings. And we're going to go to Controller Setup. And each game within Teknoparrot needs to be set up controller-wise, that is. So Controller Setup. And I'm using my Google Stadia controller. So first of all, I'm going to just left click on Start. And I'm going to press Start button on my Google Stadia controller. Up, I'm going to press D-pad up, down, D-pad down, left, right. And your buttons 1 to 8 are generally going to be your action buttons. So just map these out accordingly. And just use the back bumper triggers, or whatever you like to call them, to map out those additional ones at the bottom. And if you've got any buttons left on your controller, map out Test and Service. Okay, save settings. Cool. Next thing we need to do is launch game. Let's just check this is going to work. Okay. Setting profile. APM free games need these to work. So what we need to do in this case, if this happens to show up for you, which is to me new to Teknoparrot, I've never come across this before, where some of you might be struggling, just press OK. So what we're going to do then is actually go to online profile. And from here, register as a new user and just pop in an email, a username and password. Once you've done this, you're going to find you've got yourself an online ID. If I just copy this, and then we're going to go back to Teknoparrot and we're going to go to game settings. And you can then paste in that code in General APM Free ID. Control and V, save settings. Okay, so technically everything should be working with this game now. So we're going to go to launch game.
M2 ショットトリガーズエンジンアレスターサインをプレイするストーリーゲームカジュアルモードドラマオンにします操作タイプを選択アシストリーダーを自分の仲間を信じるんだ信じるんだ村正行くわよ
Okay, awesome. So as you can see, the game itself, using it through Teknoparrot Emulator, is working fine. And my controller is also working fine. Okay, so most importantly, for games to run through Retrobat, what we're going to need to do is go into your emulators in Teknoparrot folder. And in here, you're going to find game profiles. This is going to give you a list of all the games in .xml, which is supported by Teknoparrot. So for example, in order for me to boot my game using Retrobat, I'm going to look for Darius Burst. And here it is. So open this up with Notepad. Now for some reason with Teknoparrot nowadays and using this system through Retrobat, we're going to need to edit each one of these .xmls for games. So right at the top just here, what I'm going to do is just put my cursor right at the end just here, press enter, and I'm going to go in with spacebar a few times. And what we need to do is actually type in the game name exactly how it's spelled in your ROMs folder. So I'm going to show you what I mean. If I just come out of here and go into my Teknoparrot ROMs folder, here is my Darius Burst game. What I need to do is type this out so it's in brackets, game name, followed by the name of your game without the .teknoparrot, and then close it off exactly how I've done just here. And then once you type this in, what I do suggest you doing is actually right clicking on the folder of your game, show more options, rename, and what I suggest doing is just copying the game name without the .teknoparrot on the end. Copy that, and then just simply paste like I've just done. Just remember that it's very important that you put the brackets here just how I've done it. Game name, so capital G, capital N, and then exactly how I've done it. And you need to do this for each one of your games that you're going to be running through Retrobat and Teknoparrot. So for example, I can also do this with my less game, so it's going to be in emulators, Teknoparrot, game profiles, and my less game is just here, .xml. If I open this up with Notepad again, and I've already done this, so quite likely when you open this up, you won't see game name at all. In fact, what it is going to do is literally, likely, open up just like this, so game name won't even be there. That's why I've added this line in myself. And remember, game name, and then close them off. So what we're going to do next then is, now all this is set up, technically this should be running through Retrobat. So if I go to Retrobat, and go into Teknoparrot Darius Burst. So what can we do with this in Retrobat? If I go to view options by pressing my select button, advanced system options, we can go down to video, disable full screen. Now this is going to be selected to no. If you want to disable full screen, just go to yes. And if we go down to user interface and APM3 ID, the code I got earlier on for the LS game, you can then type this into require online profile. And from user interface, we've also got hides Teknoparrot on startup. Now, if you get any issues running games, it's worth your while inputting this to no. By auto, it's going to be on yes. In the main menu, we've also got video mode, so you can choose the refresh rate of your TV or your screen, whatever it is you're using. This generally works okay with auto. By auto, this is going to pick up 1080p 60 Hz. And that's it for today's Retrobat Teknoparrot setup guide for 2024. As you've seen in this video, it's pretty technical, but if you just bear with it and if you get lost, then by all means just go back to the video where you think you've got lost, or in most cases deleting everything and starting from scratch normally works 99% of the time. So anyways, if you like today's video, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. And just remember, I'm not a Retrobat channel. Some people think I am. I'm not. I'm doing this because I enjoy doing it for Retrobat from time to time. So anyways, join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. Until next time, stay retro.